Shalawam. I want to give all praises, all honor, and all glory unto YAHAWAH BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, QADASH. Double honors unto our apostles and elders of Great Millstone. SHALAWAAM, SHAMAIWAN, Barakyam. Peace, mercy, and blessings be unto all of you, Barakyam, to the hopeful elect, to the BAYATH, DAWADA, to the 1/3, to the men, women, and children. The true name of the Heavenly Father is Yahawah, which means to exist, that he is to be. The true name of the Son is YAHAWASHI, which means he delivers. Barakatah Yahawah, Barakatah YAHAWASHI, Barakatah Yahawah, Barakatah YAHAWASHI. Alright? What I said in Hebrew is blessed be Yahawah, or Barakyam, blessings unto the name Yahawah, blessings unto the name YAHAWASHI. Halalyam La, YAHAWAH BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, our praises to YAHAWAH BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, our power and the mediator, our Savior. YAHAWASHI HaMashiach, YAHAWASHI, the anointed. Alright, and we are the Hebrew Israelites, which consist of the so-called African Americans, blacks, Negroes, West Indians, Jamaicans, Haitians, alright, Seminole Indians, Native Americans, Cubans, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, Panamanians, Brazilians, so forth and so on. We actually make up the lost 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. And according to the Bible, we have biblical names from Judah to Issachar. Okay? The so-called white man, they're not white, they're red. They are the Idumeans according to the Holy Bible. And we are at the end of their kingdom. And they're prophesied to be the end of the world. And Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, all right, Yasha, which means he's the prince of the power. It's the beginning of it that follow it. Okay, and through YAHAWASHI, the elect will be joint heirs with YAHAWASHI and set up an everlasting kingdom on the earth. Okay, so at camp, camp was very beautiful. And by the way, we have a strike on our main camp channel. Okay, so you can also follow us on GMS Solemn Assembly 4 is our backup camp channel. Lord willing, we might have to create a GMS Solemn Assembly 5. I myself also made a bit shoot. They're getting real strict with what you can say, and they're getting real petty, which is all Bible prophecy anyway. The scripture prophesies about, the famine of the word coming. Okay. But yeah, this is at camp, the spirit had us pretty much getting on Esau so heavy to the point where these Edomites rode by, and we was a spectacle unto them. They were gawking, and they end up, the one guy ended up crashing into the other guy. And they were so embarrassed, which was all the spirit of YAHAWAH BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, because they were staring at us, talking shit, and the Lord had them crash, and they went around the block to settle it. They didn't want to do it in front of us, man. And the Lord had this other Idumean off the Ords, or as almost fell into the traffic, man. Hey, man, so, YAHAWAH BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, the same curses that are upon us, as it is written in Deuteronomy 30:7. I'll put all these curses on their enemies, on them that hate thee. Hey, the curses are being poured upon the Idumeans, And so at camp, the spirit had us heavy going into the, getting on the Idumeans, man. Now, I went into this book that the beloved brother gave me. All right, it's called The Roman Empire of the Edomite by William Beeston, which is a very great read. Now a lot of it is in Latin. In Latin, excuse me. A lot of it is in Latin. But what you can do, there's actually an app, where you can download and translate the Latin to English if you want to. Now, not all of it is in Latin. Of course, you can Google the Latin words. But I just want to put it out there that a lot of it is in Latin, but don't let that discourage you. It is a very great read, a lot of good history up in here. Okay, now on pages 23 to 24, okay, this is page 23. All right, it says, actually, let me see. Okay, so this is page 23. The other page is 24. So I'm going to start right here. It says, Amaziah, king of Judah, slew of Idumea in the valley of Salt 10,000 men, and took Selah by war, and called the name of it Joktil, and other 10,000 left alive did the children of Israel carry away captive, and brought them unto the top of the rock wherein Selah was built, and cast them down for the top of the rock, so that they were all broken in pieces of Amaziah's sons. See, and this is how we're gonna have fun with you demons in the kingdom, man. When YAHAWAH BAHASHAM give us that power, you know, because they had no pity, and it's been a continual a continual war with the devil since the womb, man. All right, Uzziah took from them Elath, that commodious haven on the Red Sea, and fortified it anew, and restored it to Judah. Okay, Judah's Maccabees. Now this is during the time of the Greeks. Okay, now during this time, the northern kingdom had already fled to Ozareth, which means another land of the so-called New World, the Americas. So you can understand. Okay, so you had the Babylonian captivity, and before the Babylonian captivity, you had the Assyrian captivity, which the northern kingdom, the 10 tribes, got took into that captivity. Then they left that captivity, and the Lord showed signs and wonders and guided them to the Americas. Okay, you can actually read about that in 2nd Esdras 13. Okay, now fast forwarding, excuse me, you had the Babylonian took us down. You had the Medo-Persians, and now you had the Greeks, which the Maccabees rose up during the time of the Greeks. Okay, it says Judah's Maccabees attacked and defeated them several times, killing on one occasion no fewer than 20,000, and more than 20,000 on another. He took their chief city, Hebron, which they took from us, which Hebron is the city of David. Okay, and the towns thereof, and pulled down the fortress of it, and burned the towers there round about. Okay, and last, his nephew Hycranus, the son of Simon, took others of their cities, and reduced them to the necessity of embracing the religion of the Jews. Okay, so we're gonna go into the history of the Greeks and what they did to us, and how they pretty much Hellenized much of our people, and made us eat pork and embrace their gods. Well, guess what? When YAHAWAH BAHASHAM give us that power, you ain't gonna be able to worship Zeus, Jupiter, Jesus Christ. You ain't gonna be able to have your gods, man. Okay, you ain't gonna be able to freak off and do all this wickedness that you were doing. You're gonna have to follow our law, statutes, and commandments. All right, so this is a foreshadowing of what's coming when the Son of Man comes back, man, and give his elect that power. Okay, son of Simon took others of their cities and reduced them to the necessity of embracing the religion of the Jews, or of leaving their country and seeking new habitations elsewhere, whereupon they submitted to be circumcised, became proselytes to the, I'm going to say Israelite, because we know Ish is it means to pertain to. Okay, and we are the real Israelites. Back then, those were the real Israelites. Okay, the Ish people came about during the time of the 1948. Okay, and actually, you go back to the Khazars of the so-called Middle Ages. Okay, creed, and were incorporated with the church and nation of the Jews. They were swallowed up and lost partly among the Naphtalian Arabs and partly among the Jews. And the very name of the Idumean, which is the Greek way of saying it, was abolished and disused. Okay? About the end of the 1st century after YAHAWASHI HaMashiach, and whereas Bishop Newton is the name of the nation now, tradition of rabbins bid us to go west to Italy and find the sons of Esau there were called the Latins. Okay, so this book pretty much proves that the Romans were Edomites, the Greeks were Edomites, and it also proves that how, you know, John Hycranus and the Jews forced those Edomites or those Idumeans, or those E's, all right, forced them to keep the Sabbath, to be circumcised, okay, and to keep our laws, statutes, and commandments, all right. Now let's go into some history. This is First Maccabees. Okay, I'm gonna go to 1. This is 5. This is First Maccabees 1 and verse 1. And it happened that after Alexander the son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto them. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them, while he was yet alive. Okay, so this is dealing with Alexander the Great, him dying and his kingdom being parted amongst his 4 generals. So Alexander reigned 12 years, and then died, and his servants bare rule, every one in his place. And after his death they all put crowns upon themselves, so did their sons after them. Many years and evils were multiplied in the earth. Now let's deal with this. Okay, so they all put crowns upon themselves is dealing with his 4 generals. Okay, you had the Ptolemy, or the Ptolemaic dynasty, which reigned in Egypt. Okay, you had Cassander, which stayed and reigned in Greece. You had Seleucus, which reigned over Syria, or modern day Iraq, that area. Okay, and from the Seleucid dynasty came Antiochus or Antiochus. Okay, Antiochus the 4th Epiphanes, which this guy was thought very highly of himself. So I believe his name means God manifest. Okay, he's the one that came out against us. Okay, and made war against the Jews. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, all right, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome. He reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Okay, and he came from the Seleucid dynasty. Okay, that one of those kings that ruled over Syria or Iran or Iraq, that whole area, man. And they made war against the Jews, and he was pretty much beefing against Ptolemy because he was trying to take over Egypt so that he can have dominion over Egypt and Syria. Okay, see Ptolemy, Cassander, Seleucus, Lysimachus. Okay, that's the 4 generals. Okay, Lysimachus pretty much had dominion over Asia Minor, or modern day Turkey. All right, the generals began to make war against each other, also called the Diadochi Wars, or the Wars of the Successors. Okay, so this is history, man. This is actually right in the Holy Bible. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Daniel. This is the book of Daniel, chapter 7. And I'm going to start at verse 5 because that links up with First Maccabees. And behold, another beast like a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. Now this is dealing with the Medo-Persian Empire. okay, which during the height of the empire, I believe it was Darius or Xerxes, pretty much had dominion over 120 provinces or states, if you will. So they have a very large military might, very large army, and they reigned over a very huge part of the known world at that time. Okay, now when it says it raised up itself on one side, the Persians, okay, it was a Medo-Persian empire, but the Persians were the stronger of the two. Okay, and it had three ribs in the mouth of it because it conquered Egypt, conquered Lydia. Okay, it was conquered and Babylon, man. Okay. After this, I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given unto it, so that 4 heads are the 4 generals of Alexander. Okay, and the 4 kingdoms that those 4 heads were maintained. Okay, so you can see the Seleucids. All right, Syria, see Iraq. All right, Salaki, this is not a very good picture, but we'll do our best. See Lysimachus ruling over Turkey, Asia Minor. All right, Cassander, he's still up there in Greece. Ptolemy, Egypt. Let's get a better picture. Okay, so you have the king of the north, Seleucus, beefing with Ptolemy, the king of southern Egypt, who smack dab in the middle of those, Jerusalem. All right, Israel, Cassander up there in Macedonia or Greece. Okay. They're called the Diadochi or the successors, man. This is those 4 heads. Okay. Okay, now let's go to Daniel 8. This is Daniel chapter 8 and verse 3. Then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns. The 2 horns were high, but the one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. Yet the Medo-Persian Empire, man, the Persians were the mightier of the 2. Okay, I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward. Yeah, they conquered Babylon, they conquered Lydia, they conquered Egypt. All right, so that no beast might stand before him, no kingdom. Okay, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. All right, and as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. Now, I mean, when he said he touched not the ground, meaning what? He was moving fast. All right, moving fast. It says in Maccabees that Alexander only reigned 12 years, but the earth was quiet before him, man. All right, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes, and he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of its power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler or anger against him, and smote him and brake his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Right? Because YAHAWAH BAHASHAM ruled in the kingdom of men. He give it up over the basis of men. So the Lord set up Edom as the Greeks, and then he set them up as the Romans, then he set them up as the Americans, man. Okay, and also the Russians and all the different nations that he has right now. All right. Therefore the he goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken. Right? When he was strong, at pretty much the height of his power, he only reigned 12 years. Okay? And back then, you would probably go out to war like age 20, 18. Okay? So he was pretty much still in his prime. The great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. Okay? And that's those four generals, man, from the Seleucid dynasty. Antiochus the fourth, Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth came out of. Okay? This First Maccabees 1:10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus or Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome, and he reigned in 137 year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Now, his reign was also prophesied in Daniel, man, what he would do. All right. Now I'm going to jump down to verse 20. It says, the ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. Right? The Persians were the stronger of the two. And the rough goat is the king of Greece, Alexander the Great. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Okay. Now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it, four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in its power. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. He shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. That's that wicked root, man. Okay? And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and peace, and by peace shall he destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. Okay, now let's go back into Maccabees. This is This is First Maccabees 1 and verse 11. And those days there went out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant, a contract with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have much sorrow. Sellouts, man. Sellout niggas. Okay? And in order to establish your kingdom, you must get rid of the sellouts. They got to be exterminated, man. All right? All of the sellouts, everyone that is not with the cause, they have to go because they're essentially traitors, man. All right? So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people who were so forward therein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance or the customs, all right, or the laws of the heathen, whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, all right, according to the customs of the heathen, which gym, all right, like you can go to a Planet Fitness, a gym, and work out, or back then it was called gymnos. Gymnos means naked. They will work out naked. So this is what they were doing at Jerusalem, okay, and made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant, enjoyed themselves to the heathen, and they were sold to do mischief. All right, so a lot of our people forsook the covenant, and they were sold to do mischief, man. They pretty much became one with the heathens. All right, now when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have the dominion of the two realms, right? Because you had the king of the north, Seleucus dynasty, or Antiochus, beefing with the king of the south, Ptolemy. Okay, he wanted Egypt, man. And after that Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year, and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude, and entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light, and all the vessels thereof, and the table of the shewbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crown, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. He took also the silver, and the gold, and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre, and spoken very proudly. Therefore there was a great mourning in Israel in every place where they were, so that the princes and elders mourned, and the virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women was changed. Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. So there was a lot of death, man. There was great wrath upon Israel. And this is the beginning of the Hellenization, to where our people were forced to become Greeks. Okay, speak that language, all right, work out naked, make themselves uncircumcised, all sorts of things, worship Zeus, all right, through what? Through the sword, through captivity, through force, man, through war, through bloodshed, okay. The land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude, and spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. Okay, now what did it say in Daniel 8? This is Daniel 8 and chapter 25. I'm sorry, Daniel chapter 8, verse 25. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. Okay, and you can precept that with Psalms. His words were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. Okay. First Maccabees 1 and 30. And spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city, and smote it very sore, and destroyed much of the people of Israel. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire, pulled down the houses and the walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took their captive, and possessed the cattle. Now, what do you think they did with those captives? They made them slaves, man. They made them slaves, or they sold them, or they sold them into slavery, and they began to be Hellenized. Then builded they the city of David, which is Hebron, with a great and strong wall. Okay, now remember when we first opened, we read the Roman Empire of the Edomites, how John Hycranus took the city of David back. It was the city of David is Hebron. The city of David was taken at this time by the heathen. Okay. Then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall, with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. Where? In the city of David. Okay. The Idumeans possessed that, man. And all wicked heathens, and wicked niggas too, that joined themselves with them. Okay. They stored it also with armor and victuals, and when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there, and so they became a sore snare, for it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary, and defiled it, and so much that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all people should be one. So these devils, they've been in that spirit, man, of a one world government, if you will, a new world order. Okay, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king, right? That's because the heathens, they don't have no fucking fight in them, man. All right, that proves that all the gods of the nations are idols, but there is a God in Israel, because they were with it. All the other heathens, they were Hellenized. They were with it, man. You know, but not the Jews. Okay. Yet many also of the Israelites consented to his religion. Like, don't get it twisted. You have a lot of sellouts and wicked men amongst the nation. Okay, Judas goats. Okay, and sacrifice unto idols and profane the Sabbath. For the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days and pollute the sanctuary and holy people. They set up altars and groves and chapels of idols and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanliness and profanation, to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said, he should die. Okay? So when you read the scriptures and it talks about the Jew no Greek, well, you got to get the correct understanding of that, man. What happened to the Jews? Okay? Because this was forced upon a lot of our people by the sword. And a lot of our people consented unto Antiochus' decree and made themselves Greeks, man. Okay? This is Acts chapter 6 and verse 1. And in those days, when the number of the disciples was multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews, because their widows were neglected in the day of the administration. Now let's look up Grecian in the blue letter.
Strong's G 1675. Hellenistes.
Hellenistes, man. Okay. The one who imitates the manners and customs of the worship of the Greeks and used the Greek tongue, okay, used in the New Testament of Jews born in foreign lands and speaking Greek. So these were Jews imitating the manner and customs and the worship of the Greeks and also speaking the Greek language. Now we understand how that happened. So now you should understand Galatians 3 and 28, man, which we're going to get. This is the book of Galatians chapter 3 and verse 28. There is neither Jew nor Greek. Why? Because they're both one and the same. That's why. Right? The Greek is just one who's imitating the Greek custom because it was forced upon them through through war, and also unrighteous decrees that were passed. Okay? Or because of the wicked of our people that consented unto that religion. Okay? There's neither Jew nor Greek, there's neither bond nor free, there's neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Hamashiach, which Christ is the Greek word that means anointed. The Hebrew word there is Hamashiach, which means the anointed. All right? And we know his name is not Jesus, it's YAHAWASHI. For ye are one in Hamashiach, YAHAWASHI. All right? When it says neither Jew nor Greek, get it right. That's talking about the Hellenists, man. All right? And when you read the book of Maccabees, you understand how the Jews got in that predicament. Okay? Yeah, but just like they forced us to this through the sword, you're going to be put, hey, man, we're going to put hell on you, man. On you Idumeans. Okay? This is from Jewish Encyclopedia. It says John Hycranus, okay, high priest, prince of the Hasmonean family, born about 175 BC, okay, died 104. He was a wise and just ruler and a skillful warrior. As a young man, he distinguished himself as a general in the war against the Syrian general Sendebesus, whom he defeated. That John was given the surname Hycranus on account of his victory is a tradition to which Gratz, and others attribute historical significance. When his father Simon Maccabees was assassinated at Jericho by his son-in-law Ptolemy, John succeeded in escaping from those sent by Ptolemy to murder him also. From Gadara, where he at that time lived, John hastened to Jerusalem, where the people gladly received him as Simon's successor. He never assumed the title of king, being content with that of the high priest. The beginning of his reign was not happy. He could not avenge the murder of his father for Ptolemy, whom he said he could he could not avenge the murder of his father for Ptolemy, whom he had shut up in the Fort Dagon, subjected Hycranus' mother to cruel tortures on the walls of the fort whenever her son attempted to attack it. Hycranus therefore raised the siege after several months, although his mother bore the tortures with heroic determination and encouraged him to punish the murderer. Finally, however, she was put to death as she was presumably an imprisoned brother. Also, while Ptolemy himself fled to Rabath Amnon. It says, Jonathan, the high priest and the senate of the Jews, within a laurel wreath, which is the coin, okay, that our people had back then. See, real wealth is silver and gold, okay, and when we get set back up in the kingdom, that's what we're gonna deal with, man. Copper coin of Hycranus. You can see right there, got the QADASH, the Hebrew. You know, on the other side is a laurel wreath. Okay. It says Jonathan or Yachanan, the high priest. Okay, in the senate of the Jews within a laurel wreath. Reverse two cornucopia in the middle, a poppy head. All right. History of Israelite coinage. Besieged by Antiochus Sedatus. A still greater danger threatened Hycranus when the Syrian king Antiochus Sedatus marched against Jerusalem with a large army and besieged them. The besieged suffered from lack of provisions, the besiegers from lack of water. Hycranus found himself forced into the apparent cruelty of driving out of the city all who could not carry arms. After Antiochus had unsuccessfully besieged the city during an entire summer, he was willing, in view of the danger which menaced him from the east, to enter into peace negotiations. Hycranus asked an armistice of 7 days, extended over the Feast of Tabernacles, which was granted. Hard-pressed, Hycranus willingly agreed to the terms of peace. The Jews were compelled to surrender their weapons and pay tribute for Joppa and for some other towns which formerly were Syrian. Okay, now why does it say Syrian? Because going back to Alexander the Great, and his 4 generals, they conquered that region, man. Okay. And what did Antiochus do? They began to take over our land. All right. In preference to having Jerusalem occupied by Syrian troops, Hycranus gave hostages, among whom was his own brother, and undertook to pay 500 talents of silver, of which 300 were demanded at once. He is said to have taken this sum from the treasure in David's sepulchre, in conformity with another stipulation. The battlements on the walls of Jerusalem were destroyed. all right, alliance with the Romans. In 130, Hycranus, as a vassal of the Syrian king, marched against the Parthians. Antiochus Sedatus fell in the ensuing battle, or as Aspian Deribus Seratius, in despair at his ignominious defeat, sought death. His brother Demetrius II ascended to the throne for the second time, but retained it only for a short period. Hycranus now seized the opportunity presented by the weakness of the Syrian kingdom to extend the borders of Judea to the line it had held in the days of its prosperity, to shake off the Syrian bondage, which really would be the Idumean bondage, and enlarge his dominions. He endeavored to form an alliance with the Romans. To this end, he followed the example set by his predecessor and sent an embassy to Rome. A great deal of confusion, however, exists with regards to this embassy and the senatorial enactments connected with it. Okay, which you can read that in the Josephus, which I have the Josephus, but I'm not going to go into that in this lesson. Now, this is the point that we want to get. Forcibly converts the Idumeans. Okay, Hycranus, who had been confirmed by the Romans in the possession of the important seaport of Joppa, subjugated other Syrian towns, such as Aleppo. He marched against the fort of Madaba on the banks of the Jordan, which out the Hasmoneans, and conquered it after a 6-month siege. He also conquered the town of Samega on the Sea of Galilee, of special importance on account of its geographical position. He then proceeded against the Samaritans, who had always sided with the enemies of the Jews. Now, when you do your history on the Samaritans, okay, the northern kingdom left Samaria. Samaria was where the 10 tribes dwelt, but they left, and heathens got put in that land. Okay, so the heathens always sided with the enemies of the Jews. All right, he conquered. So that's another reason why we know that woman at the well was not an Israelite, man. Okay, he conquered Shechem, one of the most important towns of Samaria, and destroyed the temple of Mount Gerizim. After victoriously ending the war in Samaria, he proceeded to subdue the Idumeans, always a menace to the southern parts of his domains. With funds he is said to have obtained from David's sepulchre, he hired foreign troops, dismantled Adora and Marissa, the strong places of Idumea, and forced the Idumeans to accept the Israelite religion and to submit to circumcision. This is the first instance of forcible conversion in Israelite history. And this Hycranus allowed his zeal for the Israelite nation, the Hebrews, cause to lead him to take a step which later wrought harm, right? To the Idumeans belong the family of the Herodians, okay? Now that's another lesson, but when you go into Herod the Great, okay, or Herod, who the Lord smote in the book of Acts, that he was an Idumean, okay? But he was practicing as if he was a Jew, who were to bring about the ruin of the Hasmoneans. The Samaritans, who still held their strongly fortified metropolis of Samaria, with a part of Jezreel, remained hostile toward the Jews. For this reason, Hycranus renewed his attacks upon them. He marched against Samaria at the head of a great army, but as his presence in Jerusalem was necessary, he left the siege of the former city to his 2 sons, Aristobulus and Antigonus. Okay, but that was the point I wanted to get on how even during back then you had our people force the Idumeans to practice the so-called religion or the customs, laws, statutes, and commandments of the Jews. And it happened again during the Middle Ages. You can read a book called The 13 Tribes, okay, which they were called in between so-called Christianity, that's the Israelites that were followers or believers in YAHAWASHI. Then you had the Jews, pretty much the Old Testament Israelites or Jakes, and then you had, a lot of our people that were into Islam. All right, so them being in the Caucasus Mountains, they were caught up in between 3 different religions. And when you read that book, the 13th Tribe, they clung to the Jews, okay, which was spiritual because it happened during this time under John Hycranus, okay. And even when you go to the Maccabees, it was straight war, non-stop war with these devils, man. This is First Maccabees, first book of Maccabees, chapter 5, and verse 1. Now when the nations round about heard that the altar was built, and the sanctuary was renewed as before, it displeased them very much, right? Because the 4th chapter was pretty much about the Feast of Dedication, of how they rebuilt the altar, right? That the Greeks threw down and sacrificed swine upon, okay? But when they heard that it got rebuilt, the heathen they were hating, man. You know, they were hating. Just like now, spiritually, whenever they see us at camp, that's the altar getting rebuilt, and they don't like it, man. That's why at this past camp, there was a car accident, man. All right? Wherefore they thought to destroy the generation of Jacob that was among them, and thereupon they began to slay and destroy the people. Then Judas fought against the children of Esau and Idumea at Aripatine, because they besieged Gael, and he gave them a great overthrow and abated their courage and took their spoils. Okay? Also, he remembered the injury of the children of Bien, who had been a snare and an offense unto the people, and that they lay in wait for them in the ways. He shut them up, therefore, in the towers and encamped against them and destroyed them utterly, and burned the towers of that place with fire and all that were therein. And this was before John Hycranus, because this is Judas. All right? I believe John is the nephew of Simon. Okay? So if we go to 2nd. This is 2nd Maccabees 10 and verse 14. But when Gorgias was governor of the holds, he hired soldiers and nourished war continually with the Jews. And therewithal, the Idumeans, having gotten into their hands the most commodious holds, kept the Jews occupied. And receiving those that were banished from Jerusalem, they went about to nourish war. So it's continual war, man. All right, we never stop having war with these goddamn Idumeans. Okay, and even during 70 AD, all right, because of what John Hycranus did, you had a lot of Idumeans thinking that they were us, and they fought alongside us against the Romans. Okay, then they that were with Maccabees made supplication and besought YAHAWAH BAHASHAM that he would be their helper, and so they ran with violence upon the strongholds of the Idumeans, and assaulting them strongly, they won the holds and kept off all that fought upon the wall, and slew all that fell into their hands, and killed no fewer than 20,000. And because certain who were no less than 9,000 were fled together into 2 strong castles, having all manner of things convenient to the siege, Maccabees left Simon and Joseph, and Zacchaeus also, and them that were with them, who were enough to besiege them, and departed himself unto those places which needed more help. Okay. So like that was the point. Yeah, but pretty much, man, when you read the Maccabees, there's continual war against the Idumeans, and even after that, began the Hasmonean dynasty, which John Hycranus came from. Okay, against this damn devil, because it said, going back to Antiochus, it said that he shed innocent blood. This is 2 Maccabees 7:31. And DAWADA has been the altar of all mischief against the Hebrews, shall not escape the hands of YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHWASHI. Okay? And even going back to Antiochus, the Lord smote his ass, man. The Lord fucked him up. Alright? And this is saying that's going to happen to these Idumeans today. This is the book of Daniel, chapter 8, and verse 25. Through his policy he shall cause crafty prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He also shall stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. This is 1 Maccabees chapter 6. It's 1 Maccabees 6, and let's see. I'm going to just jump to 8. Now when the king heard these words, he was astonished, right? What he heard, that he was losing battles. The temple, the altar got rebuilt. Judas, Maccabees, right? They were winning battles. Okay. Now when the king heard these words, he was astonished and sore and moved, whereupon he laid him down upon his bed and fell sick for grief, because it had not befallen him as he looked for. And there he continued many days, for his grief was ever more and more, and he made account that he should die. Wherefore he called for all his friends, and said unto them, the sleep is gone from my eyes, and my heart faileth for very care. And I thought with myself, into what tribulation that I come, and how great a flood of misery it is, where now I am. For I was bountiful and beloved in my power, but now I remember the evils that I did at Jerusalem, and that I took all the vessels of gold and silver that were therein, and sent to destroy the inhabitants of Judea without a cause. I perceive therefore that for this cause these troubles have come upon me, and behold, I perish through great grief in a strange land. Okay? So YAHAWAH BAHASHAM, the same wicked root, YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHWASHI, just like the prophecy said, man, he destroyed his ass without hands. Okay? Hey, but this time, hey, Yahweh is going to send YAHWASHI back to destroy you devils. And the Heavenly Father is going to raise up his elect. As it is written, I will lay vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel. This is Ezekiel 24, or is it 25? Ezekiel 25 and verse 12, thus said the Lord YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHWASHI, because the Idumean had dealt against the house of Judah by taking vengeance, and had greatly offended and revenged themselves upon them. Yeah, they greatly offended us, man. Putting us in slavery, separating the families, the men, the women, the children, buck breaking the men. Alright, even going back to the Maccabees, killing our babies, killing a woman for circumcising the babies, going into the temple proudly. Okay. Blaspheming, iconoclasm, defacing the images. They greatly offended, man. Okay? Their sins reached unto heaven. We could go on and on. Therefore, thus said YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHWASHI, I will also stretch out my hand upon Idumea, and will cut off man and beast from it, and I will make it desolate from Teman, and they of the Dan shall fall by the sword. This is what's coming. Okay? And I will lay my vengeance upon Idumea, by the hand of my people Israel, and they shall do in Idumea according to my anger and according to my fury, and they shall know my vengeance, said YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHWASHI. This is Revelation 13 verse 9. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. What's captivity? Slavery. Alright? How did we get to this world? Slavery. Slave boats, man. Alright? The triangular slave trade. Okay? The transatlantic slave trade. Okay? He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Who are the saints? The Israelites, man. This is from Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 1. For the Lord, YAHAWAH BAHASHAM will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel, starting with the elect, the first fruits. Okay? The first fruits, the 144,000, the 1/3, the friends of the prophets, the men, women, and children. Okay? The speckled birds. Okay? And set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And that's those Israelite foreigners, the speckled birds. All right? And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of YAHAWAH BAHASHAM for servants and handmaids. That's what's going to happen to all of Idumea and all the heathen nations. Okay? And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. And they shall rule over their oppressors. They're just like they oppressed us in the past. They're doing the same thing with today, with the lethal you know what. All right, and pretty soon it's going to be the MOTB. Okay, and you know we're at the end because we have to watch what we say or they'll take the damn video down, man. Okay. Okay, I just want to get two more scriptures. Idumea will be humbled, man. This is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1 and verse 10. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. Right? Because you want to give our people the Depop. Well, you're gonna be cut off forever, man. Verse 18. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Idumea for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Idumea. For YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI has spoken it. Okay? So yeah, you got a great future judgment. And as for the other nations, you're gonna get your ass whooped too, man. Okay? The whole earth is gonna be governed by the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Holy Bible. Just like y'all try to Hellenize us, well, y'all gonna have to follow our laws, statutes, and commandments. This is Zechariah chapter 14. And 17. Let's see. And 16. Actually. Yeah, 16. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth and unto Jerusalem to worship the King, YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. Okay? And if the family of Egypt go not up and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Okay? So if you heathens, you don't keep our law, statutes, and commandments, you're not going to get any rain, which is going to lead to drought, which is going to lead to famine. Okay? Which is going to lead to pestilence, which is going to lead to other plagues, man. All right? This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Okay? And with that, I'm going to end it there. Salaki for making this too long. Call halalyam la. All praises to YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI BAHASHAM QADASH. Double honors unto apostles and elders of Great Millstone. SHALAWAAM BAHASHAM Barakyam. Peace, mercy, and blessing to the elect. SHALAWAAM.